Hello and welcome to the Work of Thy Hands podcast, where we interview Christian creatives conversing on the ways they have seen their creative projects as co-creative efforts with Christ, times they have drawn inspiration from the physical creation, and their thoughts surrounding the nature of work as a creative. I'm your host, Allison Ramirez, and today I'm thrilled to be welcoming our next guest to the podcast, Cara Ruegg. Cara writes clean fantasy. Many of her books contain Christian themes, but all of her works are clean with no foul language, excessive gore, or explicit scenes, and they all contain moral lessons. So, welcome, Cara.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about your writing. So, have you written at least one book or writing piece already?
Yes, I have a lot. I have the Kingdom of Dragons series, which is a completed series
Okay.
of 3 books.
Mm-hmm.
And then I have Fae of Cinders, which is a darker fairy tale retelling of Cinderella.
Oh,
And
okay.
that is also like a short series, like a duology that isn't complete yet. The first book is out, but working on the second book, and I'm hoping that one will be out within a few months. We'll see how that goes. And I also have a middle grade book called Frozen Hearts. And that one is also supposed to be a series of fairy tale retellings. And that one is Christian fantasy. It kind of has Narnia vibes, but it's very overtly Christian. It has Bible verses and really obvious like redemptive arcs in there. So it's like Fae of Cinders is more of my like there's moral lessons, but it's not really religious. And the Kingdom of Dragons is kind of like in the middle, and then Frozen Hearts is like very obviously Christian.
Okay. Wow, so it sounds like is that at least like 5 or 6 books so far?
Yeah, yeah, and I also have a novella connected to the Kingdom of Dragons as well. It's a prequel
Okay.
that I give to my newsletter subscribers.
Mm-hmm. Wow. And so with all those books, are they self-published? Are they traditionally published?
Yes, those are all self-published.
Okay.
Which, yeah, I mean, so I started writing like forever ago, and I completed my first fantasy book, which was called First to Dream of Love, when I was 17 or so. I was junior in high school. And yeah, I completed that one. And then at that time, HarperCollins had a website called Ink Pop, and I uploaded my novel on there. And basically, if you got like, can't remember exactly how the voting system works, but if you got up to the top 5, um, an editor would read your book. And so I got into the top 5 with that book. And usually, like, well, the editor only had to read the first, like, couple chapters or so. Like, it wasn't very much. And then she would give feedback. I mean, if you were really lucky, they would pick you to, they would offer you a contract. But that usually didn't happen. But yeah, so she read my book and she read the whole book, which I was really shocked about. And I was definitely not expecting that. And she gave me amazing feedback. And she told, and a lot of praise as well, which was really nice to hear. I kind of felt like, well, maybe I'm really actually good at something. And of course, they didn't offer me a contract because that one was just very, very Catholic and probably would have been hard for them to market. And I'm sure like the manuscript had a lot of work to be done as well, which the editor also mentioned in her review. But she really commended me for my use of language and all of that. So after that, I thought, okay, well, now maybe I'm good at something. So I started to query, and I reached out to a bunch of agents, and I did actually have one agent that looked at it, and because I knew a best-selling author who kind of like sent my manuscript off to her, but she told me that she couldn't really sell it because it wasn't really like a type of book that she works with. It wasn't her genre. So then I kind of like eventually gave up on the idea. I went out, I started teaching at some Catholic schools. I went to the convent for 2.5 years. I was in the convent. Then I came out of the convent, went back to teaching, got married. Here I am. And writing just kind of fell by the wayside. Like I still wrote stories here and there, and I wrote for like newspapers and like Catholic Family News. I wrote for them for a little bit, and I wrote for I do volunteer work for CatholicLink.org and write articles for them as well. So yeah, just like I still would write and write for blogs, sometimes paid, sometimes not. But writing like a full length story, especially after having a child, was kind of hard.
Mhm.
And then I had this idea to write a novel based on the life of Saint Theophane Bernard, who I named my first son after. But then it just kind of like it was hard. It's hard to write historical fiction because I have to do all the research and
Mhm.
then find time to write. And then I saw one of my friends post about her book. She wrote a Christian fantasy book, and I saw it kind of on my newsfeed. And I thought, well, maybe I should do something like that. So, and she's self-published, and so I just decided, okay, I'll learn about self-publishing, and I'll just wing it. I'll just do it. Won't bother querying. I'll just put a book out there and see what happens. So I did, and I mean, I made so many mistakes because I didn't have money for an editor at the time because I have my husband is sick, and so him keeping a job, like a full-time job, and making enough money in this economy, especially, it was just it was hard. So we really didn't have any money to spare on an editor on anything. I did my own cover. I did everything myself, and it really could have used an extra pair of eyes for sure. And yet, somehow, it has sold hundreds of copies. And now I can pay for an editor. That series was unedited. It's still selling. It's actually still like my better selling series, even with all of its imperfections, which a lot of which I've fixed up since having published it, of course, as readers pointed out to me, like, if they saw like a typo or something, I would go in and fix it. And that's the nice thing too about being self-published, is that I can always go in and fix it. And I don't have to worry about how there's like hundreds of copies that are just sitting there and I can't do anything about these typos. So like in some ways it's a relief, and like it was a humbling journey in some ways, like just having mistakes happen, having trying to do the work of a graphic designer and a editor and all these jobs that a lot of which I don't have experience in. Trying to fill all these like shoes and do it all myself, and that was hard, and it's still hard. I still make mistakes, and my books still aren't perfect, but I was able to actually get an editor from Thea Cinders, and I plan to get an editor for the rest of my books because now I'm bringing in extra money, and and this money now, like, it helps pay for my son. He has apraxia of speech, so childhood apraxia of speech, which is a motor um, an issue of his his jaw, like his jaw working with his brain and speaking properly. Like, it's hard for him to move his jaw in the right way. He struggles to speak clearly. So we're going to a specialist, a speech therapist who helps him with that. We're supposed to be going like twice a week, and we can't still. We're only going once a week, but it's still like, it's like 400 a month, probably, like, roughly, and that's a lot of money for us to be dishing out every month on that. But my books,
Mhm.
they help me. They help me at least cover half that cost, and that
Yeah.
helps a lot. And then they help with groceries. They help with all these like little things. So if I want to buy like extra, like, we usually buy used for everything, like clothes and everything. It's all used, and we get by, and we live in a little small space for a family, and it's not my kids they're just happy that mom and dad are there, and I'm still able to stay home with my children, which is really nice. And I'm hoping, like, it would be really nice if I could make like a decent income with this and still continue to stay home, because I'm really working like very, very part-time hours, and that's just really nice. Like, I only spend maybe an hour or two on my books a day, usually with the kids present. Like, I'll just kind of have like my Word app on my phone kind of open, or sorry, Google Docs on my phone. I'll have Google Docs open on my phone, and I'll just write a scene here and there, and then go back to playing with the kids or cooking, doing dishes, whatever, and then I'll write a scene, and then so I kind of get like little bits here and there done throughout the day, and then I usually end up having a book written within like 3 months on average. It takes me about 3 months to write a book. And so, yeah, so, I'm actually starting a cozy mystery brand too, under the name Eliza Floretta. So we'll see how that one goes. But
Well,
yeah, so I have a lot.
yeah, that's such a neat hearing kind of your journey, like from, it sounds like 17 when you entered your first book into that ink pop contest to where you are now. Yeah,
Yes.
I always think it's so neat when authors have so many different ideas, like, yeah, because it sounds like you're writing in different genres, different age groups. So how do you like come up with your ideas? for your stories?
It's so hard for me to answer that because I don't know. He just comes to me.
Mhm.
I guess that I get inspired by little things here and there throughout my day, and of course, like I write what I know probably. Like those underlying like those themes of like hope and redemption, and because I'm a convert, so being a convert myself and having God pull me out of that darkness and give me purpose. Like, I mean, I just feel like before my conversion, I didn't really have that purpose. And suffering didn't really have the meaning it does now, where now I can unite my suffering to Christ on the cross. But before, that idea was foreign to me. So all of these things I think are kind of woven into my stories. Even my Kingdom of Dragons book, I have scenes of giving birth in my book, even though it's geared to young adults, and that's probably not what you would expect in a young adult book. But yeah, I have some childbirth scenes in that series, and it's because I'm a mom and I've given birth, and so I have that experience
Yeah.
as well. So like that just I don't know. I guess there's just these little things, and when I write, I don't really plan. The book just comes to life. My characters just come to life. I kind of like now I'm trying to have an outline there because I do find I write faster if I have like a little bit of an outline, but then I'll just be writing and next thing you know, I'm like totally off the rails into like, it's like, okay, never mind. I guess this isn't happening in my book. So scratch all that I planned. Because yeah, my characters, they just have a mind of their own. And even of my cozy mysteries, I didn't know who the killer was until like toward the very end. I'm like, man, it's kind of crazy writing a cozy mystery. I don't know what the killer is myself. So hopefully that stumps my readers. But yeah, so it's just, I feel like they come to life as I'm writing them and these ideas come to life. And my husband just laughs about it all the time. Like he reads the reviews, or I tell him the reviews rather of like that my book's got. And, these readers saying, oh, I didn't expect that plot twist or whatever. And my husband's like, I bet you didn't either. And I'm like, yeah, I didn't. Like, I'll be writing a scene and then this big plot twist comes up and I'm just like, this is so cool. And I did not plan this. So, like, it's really exciting for me to write like that, I feel like, because it's like I'm experiencing it all for the first time myself since yeah.
It's always fun to hear the different creative processes of writers and how they come up with their ideas. I know for me too, because I'm finishing up a YA sci-fi dystopian trilogy this year, and I feel like I just sit down to write, and it's like, what is it going to be today, And then like a
Yeah.
scene will come, and it's a lot of trial and error and trying things out and rewriting. But I like the discovery element of writing; it's a
Yeah.
lot of fun. Well, good. Well, one question I like to ask is how do you see your faith inspiring your creative works? Or do you see any of your stories as co creative with Christ, his presence with you throughout that journey of writing? Or,
Yeah. I mean, I think I prefer like the term subcreation or acting as a subcreator, like which Tolkien uses for the artist or
yes,
storyteller who creates within the framework of God's creation.
right.
And I mean, I suppose to me it means like all I do, all these stories that I create, I aim to create for God, to glorify Him, to help lead souls to Him.
Hmm.
And, God gave me the tools, the talent, and skills to craft my stories. So, of course, it's not the same as Him creating, since He created from nothing, but I am taking those ideas, thoughts, drawing on the world around me and from my experiences and, creating stories. And I owe this ability to Him.
Love that. Yeah. I took a Lewis and Tolkien, actually, I think it was just a Tolkien class, like Lord of the Rings in college.
Yeah.
And we talked a lot about, yeah, subcreation is a big idea of Tolkien, which is, yeah, it's so neat to be able to feel like, yeah, like God is the ultimate creator, but we get to create like on a much smaller scale.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Mhm.
I love Token. He's brilliant. I mean, he'd probably laugh at my little fantasy stories because they're like little pieces of dust compared to his. I mean, I am really inspired, like by him. Just even in my fantasy worlds, because my Kingdom of Dragons book actually has like a woman who is the symbol of the Blessed Virgin Mary, which I get a lot of criticism for actually, because a lot of Protestants read my books, and I have had Protestants who just really did not like that because they could tell it was pretty obvious that she is a symbol of Our Lady. So I kind of like feel like Tolkien kind of inspired me to do that. And it's not like initially like set out to have this character in my book even. But yeah, I just think it was maybe like a subconscious thing and it just happened like that.
Yeah, definitely. Do you write a lot about are you inspired by the natural creation at all? And does any of those themes like animals or plants or trees find your way into your stories? I love like nature and spending time outside, and I find that I get a lot of inspiration in my writing from that.
Yeah, I do. I love nature. I mean, it's kind of hard now to really immerse myself in it because if I'm outside, I usually have kids with me. And,
Mhm.
and I'm watching them like play in the mud or whatever. I have all boys. So yeah, it can get kind of messy. I feel like I can't like go out in nature and go for like nice little quiet nature walks anymore. I mean, I probably should work that into my schedule and have my husband help me out with that. But yeah, I definitely do. And I feel like even just like when you look at like light and shadows and how they kind of reflect on the ground and just that kind of being like symbols of light versus dark and all these things that
Mhm.
kind of make you think of like these deeper themes.
For
And yeah,
sure.
and even like the sunrise being kind of like a promise of renewal.
Mhm.
So yeah, yeah, I definitely say that nature does inspire me, and I love being outside too. I feel like it helps me to kind of think clearly.
Yeah. This is kind of a different question, but it came up from what you were saying earlier about how you mentioned that after high school, you said you spent a couple years, you said in a convent. Is that right?
Yes, yes.
Okay. I'm like curious that time that you spent there, those few years, like, did anything in your time there inspire your writing or like different themes? Like you mentioned how you wrote about like childbirth in one of your stories that related to your experiences, like because I feel like that's so cool. Like I don't know a lot of people that have spent time in a convent and then left.
Yeah.
So that's really
Um,
unique.
I mean, I do think the convent life prepared me for motherhood. Um,
Mhm.
and taught me how to love with a sacrificial love. And I think that that's in my stories. I
Okay.
don't really have, or I haven't really portrayed nuns in my stories yet, or anything like similar to that. Not yet. But I mean, I imagine that might come up in one of my stories eventually. But yeah, yeah, I definitely think that it has like, taught me, it had helped me grow my spiritual life. And I feel like before maybe my spiritual life was a bit emotional and then I feel like I kind of went for a purification in the convent where I kind of grew out of that like all kind of I don't know, almost immature faith, I suppose, and grew into something that was a little bit more solid.
Mhm.
And yeah, I definitely think that it helped me from and prepare me for the vocation that I have now, the calling I have now as a mother and a wife. So yeah.
That's so neat. Yeah. Well, great. I'm curious too. I feel like I'm jumping around, but there's so many neat things to talk about from your experiences. But how do you, as a self-published author, because I'm also self-published too, and I struggle sometimes with the marketing side of things. So it sounds like you have had decent success, like people are buying your books, people are reviewing them. So, like, do you have any strategies that have helped you with getting the word out about your stories?
So I probably need to work on this myself. Right now, I just do all like the free options, which is social media and my newsletter, which I'm not very good at the newsletter side of things, but I do have a newsletter. I mean, I don't know how many sales I get from that, but social media, that's pretty much where I get all my sales. I'm in some like book review or reader groups on Facebook. So occasionally, if I see someone asking for a recommendation and it's allowed, then I might self promote if I feel like my book might fit. And then people see this. And then I mean, I think My Kingdom of Dragons, it's been around for a couple years now. And I feel like I'm just getting consistent sales from it. Even when, like, after I had my third son, I really didn't do very much at all. And I was still making sales consistently each month. Not like too much, but I was still selling quite a few books. Or not, well, at least like 10 books or so, even when I was
Yeah.
doing nothing. So I guess that's not like quite a few, but it was something. And for me,
Yeah.
doing nothing, right? Like just kind of like
Mhm.
passive income at that point. And
Right.
and yeah, so but yeah, mostly social media and yeah, so that's pretty much it. I really should try and dabble in with Amazon ads and things, but I haven't quite gotten there yet. I do like Amazon ads since they are, pay by click.
Mhm.
So there's some leeway. I don't feel like it's too risky because I can kind of keep an eye on it. And if my book is
Yes.
flopping, then I can just take it down. And, like usually like in a month, I'll, at worst, I'll pay like $20 or something. It's not too bad, but I haven't really like figured Amazon ads out yet, so I don't really do them right now. I do plan on trying to figure that out and figure out some other like advertising. Self promos are the big thing for me, I think. And I just recently did a free promo for my first book in my Kingdom of Dragons series.
Okay.
And I just do like Fussy Librarian. I'd love to get a BookBub deal or something just to reach like more people, but they're very picky. So far,
I have heard, writers say it can be good if you can get a deal from BookBub, but I heard it's a hard process.
Yeah. So, but I just do kind of Fussy Librarian and then like spread the word through social media. And yeah, so that I think like I just did one and I already got like in a couple days after doing that, I made like $100 from people reading book 2 and 3. And so I was like, okay, good. Like even in just like a couple of days, I've already made my return on investment and a little more. So, and then of course, I always find that after doing a free promo, my sales kind of go up for like the next like 2 to 3 months. Cause I guess people, everyone takes some time to kind of read through the first book. And then, and that's like thousands of readers that I would not have otherwise gotten to take a chance on me as a nobody author. Like, no one knows who I am. So yeah, but because I think this time around I got 1,500 or so downloads.
Wow.
And last time when I did this promo, I got 1,700 downloads. So that's like, those are thousands of people that, have like the idea of my book enough to download it. And I'm sure not all of those people will read it, and I'm sure not all of those people will like it. And some just want the free book. But then there's like maybe like a handful that, will finish reading it, will get hooked, and will go on to the next books in the series. So that for me is like the cheapest thing like it only cost me like, I don't know, like $40-$50 or something. I can't remember for the Fussy Librarian promo. So
that's the site that you said it's called Fussy Librarian?
Yes, that's correct.
Oh, and then you can set up a free promotion for like your first book through there.
Yeah, and if it's your first time, they give you like a $10 discount as well, I think. So yeah, I think the first time I did it was only $20, and so it was pretty risk free then. Now, and I decided to go and try so before I did young adult, and I think they charged less for young adult. This time I did fantasy, and they charged a little more for targeting their fantasy readers. There's also a bunch of free ones as well that I found that just will list it because they probably use like, Amazon associate links. So they're probably being paid that way. So a lot of times, a lot of these websites or whatever, they'll just say that, oh yeah, we'll list it on our website, like, or send it to our newsletter subscribers on X day and for free basically. So.
Okay. That's so neat. I'll have to check that out. Because, I also am finishing up my series, as I mentioned, this year. So that's, I think that sounds really helpful with the series. Because you can get people hooked with the first book for free, and then you're hoping they pay for the second or third or fourth, books.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like if you only had one book out and you didn't really have like a backlog of other books, then it's probably not as worth it. But yeah, for sure. Like once you have, even if it's not even a series, even if it's just like other books, like just people will see your name and just be like, okay, what else? And I always list like the other books I write at the back of each of my books, kind of like a little short, like one-liner about what this book is about.
Right.
So that way they can, if they like me as a writer, they can go and check out my other books.
Great. Well, another fun question I like to ask is, do you have any advice for other writers or creatives in general that you wish you knew or now that you think would be helpful for people to be aware of? I know that wasn't one of the questions I sent, but it's been one I've been starting to ask because I'm like, oh, people who are listening, like, it can gain maybe some wisdom.
Yeah. I don't know. I probably just tell them, to write the book. And even if it's bad, or if they think it's bad, just write it. Just write the story, because you can always go back and edit it, but you can't edit something that's not there.
Right.
And also small goals, like throughout the day. Like for me as a mom, I don't have much time right. So, and I certainly don't have like uninterrupted time. Usually, like when evening hits, I just want to spend time with my husband. I don't want to write books. And so a lot of the time is just like pockets throughout the day where I have like a little bit of time to myself. Even if I'm not like really by myself, I mean, it kind of helps me that I can tune things out and hyper focus, while still kind of like keeping an eye on my kids, of course. But like obviously they're safe and everything. But you know, if the baby's in the playpen and my other kids are, you know, doing a little arts and crafts or something, then I'll have some time where I can just write, and I'll just write a scene, or my goal usually is, right now it's 500 to 1,000 words a day. And if I can get more than that, then that's great. But like, I'll just say 500 words. And then if I hit those 500 words, you know, I still feel like satisfied.
Mhm.
Sometimes they don't flow and I have to force it. And sometimes they do flow and I don't want to stop writing. So it just depends on the day, but I still try and do that every single day, even if I'm in the mood for it or not, just so I can get that book out there. Because at this point, I mean, for me, it's more than just a hobby. It's also a business, because, you know, I do kind of rely on the income
Mhm.
to help my family.
Yeah,
So yeah, I
great.
kind of treat it as a business, at least to an extent. Like there's definitely like, you know, if we get sick or whatever, I can take a step back and I don't feel guilty for that. Like especially
Mhm.
when I had my third baby, like I feel like for the first 6 months it was like a big step back as I adjusted to having a new baby.
Mhm.
Other than that, I do kind of try to treat it like a business and get those books out there, because the biggest marketing strategy, of course, is to produce the next book.
Yeah. Yeah. All good advice. Well, the last question I like to ask is there a particular Bible verse, prayer, song, or person who inspires you as a creative?
Um, I mean, I feel like there's probably a lot, but I mean, one Bible verse I can think of is probably Matthew 13:34. All these things Jesus spoke in parables to the multitudes, and without parables, he did not speak to them. And I like to reflect on that because Jesus was the ultimate storyteller, and this verse proves the value of storytelling. Like, we as humans are drawn to stories. It is far easier to remember a story than just some, you know, facts about it out. Like, it just makes sense. Jesus would make use of stories to teach us. You know, even with fantasy, like I know that some Christians really look down on fantasy because it's not reality, but you're kind of like, yeah, you're creating your own world and these set of rules, and you know, so that's some. I've even seen some that I even like look down. I've heard of some Christians that look down on fiction completely, thinking that, you know, it's just there's no need for it. But I like definitely beg to differ, because I feel like, you imagine yourself in these characters' shoes, and so when they make a mistake and then have consequences for that mistake and experience consequences for that mistake, you feel it. So I feel like it's more impactful than for instance, like, you know, if the character commits fornication and then deals with the consequences of that, well, like the reader can feel that, like they can feel that pain that the character experienced, and then like I feel like that's even more powerful in some ways than just saying, like, you know, keep yourself pure until marriage. So, or like, in My Faye of Cinder's book, there's a scene where, one of the characters is tempted to give herself away in that manner, and she reflects on it and she chooses not to for the dignity of her person. um, you know, and like, I really want teen girls to read that and think, oh, you know, I deserve more. I need to you know, I should respect myself, and all these things that I feel like teen girls aren't getting, especially from young adult literature. Like, I
Mhm.
remember reading young adult books even like 20, or how long ago was that, like 10 years, or I don't even know. 10 years ago, I can't remember exactly, but it was a long time. I feel like it was a long time, but as a teen when I would read this, and there's so many messages that even if things weren't like explicit, you know, there wasn't any explicit sex or anything like that, there was still sensuality and purity and putting yourself in really tempting situations and then not having like proper consequences for any of these things. And I feel like that really like skews how these teens view things, because I think I can just lie in bed with my boyfriend and nothing will happen, right? But like, okay, well, that's kind of dangerous for obvious reasons, as you know, mom and dad and adults can see that, but a teen might not until they're in that situation, and then things happen and they like are just like, okay, well, why did this happen? Well, it's because you put yourself in that situation, you played a fire. But these books portray it like you can play a fire but then nothing will happen sometimes. Like I remember reading books where there was that scene and then nothing would happen, fornication wouldn't happen, and I feel like that was almost unrealistic. Because a lot of times, like if you're attracted to someone, a lot of times something will happen. I mean, not always, but more often than not, I feel like something that can lead to something, and so it's good for teens to be aware. So that's kind of my point too. My purpose of writing geared to teens. I really want to portray, like, if not healthy relationships, at least how to get out of unhealthy relationships, or what to do when you're in an unhealthy relationship, or and things like that.
Yeah, no, that's all great because, yeah, teens definitely need more good books, good literature. Because, yeah, I think a lot of what the secular culture is putting out there, yeah, it's just like glorifying a lot of behaviors and mentalities that, yeah, teens will read and think, oh, yeah, this is how it is or how it should be. So,
Yes.
yeah, it's good to like be able to provide an alternative for them because, yeah, they're definitely going to be reading things,
Mhm.
wanting them to read the best things they could read.
Yes.
Especially when they're very like, they're at that age where they're, like, trying to decide who they are, what they think about the world, what they believe, those types of questions. Well, great. Those of you who are listening, if you wanna stay connected, to Kara and her work, check the show notes where there's links to her professional email, website, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. I like to end each episode with a lovely prayer that is a prayer for, Christians who are in the creative endeavor. So we can pray that now to close out the episode. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Creator of the universe, how infinite and astonishing are your worlds, O divine imagination. You created a creator when you imagined me into existence. Breathe breath into so much dust. Let me lament for forgetting daily to rise up out of the clay. Free me from the deceit of the mundane and from the lure of comfort which dulls all my given edges. Most of all, light of my life, forgive my blindness, open all my eyes, salt me with newness and dreams, fire my soul with your inventive flame. Let me be committed to the world by it and find in it the deepest joy, universal creativity, flow through me, faith to see things not yet seen, hope to overflow broken cisterns, and love to free me forever. Flow a river from the holy temple through my mind to my hand, infuse my work with spirit to feed hungry souls. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Mm.